Alrighty, folks. So, welcome to the Canine Behavior Society YouTube channel. Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about how to go from this to this, from this to this, and from this to this. The purpose of this video is to give a valuable learning experience specifically for people who work around dogs in a professional capacity. So, if you were a volunteer at a dog rescue or a shelter, or you're an animal control officer, or maybe you're a person in your community that's a dog trainer, and you work with these behavior modification cases in your community, this video is for you. Okay, so just to be clear, this video is going to be about a food aggressive case. So in this video, you're not going to learn leash walking, agility. This isn't a video about teaching a dog to play fetch. Okay, this is a video about a very specific and nuanced version of reactivity that we see quite often. Also, huge shout out to Kevin. When I did my pre-launch of my book and my program last year, he was one of the first people to go through it and even give me some feedback, which I really appreciated. His main critique of my book is I don't use language such as alpha or dominance when it comes to shaping behavior. He does. And I think as long as you can get the same outcome or a great outcome, and you can go from a dog wanting to bite your head off around a food bowl to getting a dog comfortable and making friends with the dog. If he uses the word dominance to get to certain places linguistically with his clients, I think that's completely fine because he's still getting a great outcome. Also, I want to give a warning. Okay, do not try this at home. If you are going to break rule number 1 and try it at home, okay, please do me a favor. Listen to this video all the way through multiple times. Go to my last 5 videos that I posted and listen to all of those videos multiple times if you're going to try this at home. Alrighty, so before we get into the finer details of this particular reactivity session, I want to give a framework. Now, Kevin might say, hey, I use dominance to kind of, that's my overall concept, and I think that's completely fine. Me personally, when I'm teaching other people how to do what I do, because a lot of people look at me and say, oh my God, is that a magic trick? How do you do that? And so over time, I've learned how to describe that to other people. So I use what's called the fungi method, and when I'm dealing with rescues or teaching other trainers or volunteers, okay, I teach them this method called the fungi method, and I push them to master these 5 concepts that I'm about to go over. Okay, the first thing is spectrum management. When you're working with a dog, you want to be able to walk up onto that dog and work with that dog, walk that dog, understand how much drive and or prey drive that they have. All dogs have drive, not all dogs have prey drive, and before you work with a dog and start your behavior modification or obedience session, whatever it is, you want to know how much drive and or prey drive that dog has. The second concept is memory. Okay, I teach my volunteers or my members. I teach them that humans have episodic memory and dogs have associative memory. This is why dogs don't build houses. They don't loan money to each other. Okay, it's because they have an associative memory. Okay, Kevin can't get on a Zoom call with this wiener dog with little Rocky and say, hey, Rocky, if you're good, by the time I get out there, I'm going to give you a nice juicy steak. And Rocky's going to say, okay, all right, and then respond. The reason why is because, Rocky has an associative memory. So Kevin has to fly all the way out there and work with the dog in the present moment to be able to achieve a certain result. Meanwhile, Kevin, a human being with an episodic memory, can call Kevin up and say, hey, Kevin, can you come to Scotland? And Kevin can use his episodic memory to create an episode and follow through to the steps and have an end goal in mind way above in the future because he has an episodic memory, okay? I teach this distinction because it absolutely matters when we're shaping behavior. So under the fungi method, we have spectrum management and we have the distinguish in memory. That's the second concept I teach. The third concept I teach are the 3 modes of reinforcement, okay? when we're going through, the finer details of this, there are three modes of reinforcement. Okay, you don't need to talk about if you're dealing with pet dogs and behavior modification. There's no need to be talking about inducements and four quadrants. Okay, all of that language is crap. Okay, and it's useless. You could pay thousands of dollars to go to a seminar for 3 days and go and have these debates and these conversations talking about, well, was this technically positive punishment or a negative reinforcer, or was it a negative punishment? Ha ha. And everybody feels like they're smarter because they had this stupid debate. Okay, the only language that you need when you're dealing with behavior modification and basic obedience that works 100% of the time is reward, correction, and non-reinforcement. Okay, I call it the three modes of reinforcement. Okay, I'm either rewarding the dog, correcting the dog, or giving it non-reinforcement. Okay, we're going to see that in what Kevin is doing. Okay, Kevin is giving the dog he's saying mine. Kevin likes to say the word mine. Okay, for his verbal correction. Okay, when I'm giving a dog a verbal correction, I go or I go no. Okay, that's a very sharp sound, and dogs have very sensitive hearing. So when I give my dog a verbal correction, they give a response. Okay, so that's a verbal correction. Okay, there's a spectrum of corrections. There's a spectrum of reward. Okay, a good boy is called a verbal reward. Okay, so when working with behavior modification, all you need to know is reward, correction, and non-reinforcement, and I'll talk about that more. Okay, fungi's law. Okay, this is something that I took upon myself to change because it needed to be changed. Okay, and instead of using Edward Thorndike's The Law of Effect, organisms repeat behaviors that bring reward and avoid behaviors that bring punishment. Okay, I took it upon myself to change that and make an amendment to it, and that's called fungi's law. Dogs repeat behaviors that bring reward and avoid behaviors that bring correction. Okay, the fifth concept is Mary Jones. Okay, I don't hear a lot of people give seminars or talk about the work of Mary Jones. Okay, I could go on about her work for a very long time, but I'm not going to in this video. But she is the mother of behavior therapy. Okay, so in order to really truly understand counter conditioning, it's important to understand the work of Mary Jones. Okay, so just to review, if I'm in my program to become a Canine Behavior Society member, to become an expert under my program, okay, the members have to master the fungi method, which are the 5 concepts of spectrum management, memory, 3 modes of reinforcement, the fungi's law, and Mary Jones. Okay, those 5 concepts have to be mastered under my program. All right, so let's get into it. Alrighty, so let's run through this sequence. I'm just going to use the fungi method, okay, so I can show how it's applied, okay? So I'm assuming that before Kevin started this session, he took this dog for a walk, okay? The reason why you want to do that is you never want to have a dog that has to poop, okay, and it's giving you stress signals, and you think that it's giving you stress signals because of something else, and you're trying to work on a behavior modification problem, okay? So I'm assuming that Kevin's already taken this dog out, the dog's already done their business, so check. He has managed the dog's spectrum, okay? Also, it's a wiener dog, so it doesn't take that much energy to do it, okay? You can take that dog for a walk around the block, and it's going to be tired. It's probably going to have to poop already. It's going to want to take a nap after a couple of laps around the block, okay? So that's super easy, okay? Concept number 2, Kevin is there in the present moment, okay? So he's checked that one off. The third concept, the 3 modes of reinforcement, okay? We can see that the reason why an e-collar or a prong collar or is because is not necessary in this situation is because the dog is responding to tone of voice and body language, okay? So in my book in chapter 8, we talk about tools. I describe tone of voice and body language as a tool to shape behavior, meaning, okay, Kevin is giving a verbal correction to the dog and the dog is responding. Kevin is giving a verbal reward to the dog and the dog is responding, okay? Kevin, by allowing the dog to eat his shoe, okay, chew into it, that's called non-reinforcement. So you can see here, he's not rewarding the dog and he's not correcting the dog. He's providing non-reinforcement on purpose, okay? He's on purpose, he's not giving an action, okay? On purpose, he's practicing non-reinforcement because he's not rewarding the dog, he's not correcting the dog, he's not punishing the dog. He's literally just not doing anything, okay? And he's using the stimulus to get the reaction out of the dog, okay? So then the fourth concept is fungi's law. Okay, we can clearly see that this dog is repeating behaviors that bring reward and avoiding the behaviors that bring correction. Okay, when Kevin gives the dog a verbal correction, that's all that's necessary because the dog responds to the verbal correction. Okay, so dogs repeat behaviors that bring reward and avoid behaviors that bring correction. We can clearly see this. The dog is avoiding the verbal correction. This is how powerful tone of voice and body language is as a tool to shape behavior. This is proof of it, okay? A verbal correction and the dog is responding. This is why an e-collar is not necessary in this situation. No pinch collar, no leash, nothing, because a verbal correction is all you need. And one thing I want to point out here is Kevin uses a verbal correction and it's almost a whisper, okay? And if a verbal correction is a whisper is all you need to get a response out of the dog, then you don't need an e-collar. You don't need to get an e-collar and turn it all the way up to 7 and zap the dog. All you need is a whisper for a verbal correction. That's perfect, okay? Leave it at that. And then as a whole, we see Mary Jones here in full effect, okay? He is using the 3 modes of reinforcement, reward, correction, and non-reinforcement, okay, to do what? Desensitize the dog here. Counter-condition the dog here, okay? We saw before where, Kevin touches the dog's butt, just a small touch, and the dog is having a reaction. What is he doing here? He's extending a little bit past the dog's threshold, okay? He's flooding it with the scary stimulus. And what is the dog learning? The dog is learning that nothing bad is happening, okay? In fact, I'm actually getting rewarded for this behavior, okay? A lot of people, if you want to get into learning theory and you want to talk about, okay, what are the causes of this behavior? Sometimes it's not even the client's fault. It's not even the rescue's fault. Okay, dogs as puppies, they're easily conditioned to fight for their food and to be aggressive around food because they're fighting for their mother's nipple with 6, 7, 8 other dogs. So they can develop just this habit that food means fighting time. Okay, and the reason why we might use behavior therapy and the concepts by Mary Jones in this scenario is to teach the dog that, hey, look. Can't you see that nothing bad is happening in this scenario? Good. That's what we want. Okay, so this is a classic example of how the fungi method can be put to use to achieve this outcome. Okay, and again, Kevin uses the word dominance and he describes his system with using the word dominance. No worries. As long as you get this outcome,